Hello, future medical professionals. Welcome to an exciting journey into the world of human biology. Today, we are diving deep into disorders related to excretory products and their elimination, a crucial chapter for your NEET preparation. From understanding basic kidney problems to exploring advanced treatments like dialysis and transplantation, we'll cover it all across 4 levels: easy, medium, hard, and hardest. Get ready to unravel the complexities of our body's amazing waste disposal system. Let's start with the basics. What happens when our kidneys, the unsung heroes of our body, face some trouble? We'll explore some common issues in a super easy way. Our excretory system, primarily driven by the kidneys, is vital for filtering blood and removing waste products like urea, while also maintaining the perfect balance of water and salts. When this system goes awry, we encounter disorders. These problems can stem from various causes like infections, poor diet, or even genetic factors. Common symptoms often include swelling, persistent fatigue, changes in urination patterns, and sometimes pain. Understanding these basics is the first step to appreciating why early detection and treatment are so critical for maintaining kidney health. One common issue is kidney stones, or renal calculi, which are hard deposits of minerals and salts forming inside the kidneys. They often result from an excess of substances like calcium or uric acid in the urine, causing severe pain as they pass. Then there's glomerulonephritis, an inflammation of the tiny filtering units in the kidneys called glomeruli, often triggered by infections or immune reactions, leading to symptoms like blood in the urine. Finally, severe kidney problems can lead to renal failure, where kidneys lose their ability to filter waste effectively, causing toxins to build up, necessitating treatments like dialysis or even a kidney transplant. Time to test your understanding. Here are 3 quick questions. First, which organ is primarily responsible for filtering waste from the blood? Second, what are kidney stones primarily made of? And third, define glomerulonephritis in simple terms. Take a moment to think about your answers. Alright, let's step up our game. In the medium level, we'll delve deeper into the causes, symptoms, and initial treatments of these kidney disorders. Renal calculi, or kidney stones, are crystalline deposits that form in the renal pelvis. While calcium oxalate stones are the most common, others like uric acid and struvite stones also occur. Factors like dehydration, specific diets, and even genetics contribute to their formation. Symptoms range from excruciating flank pain to blood in the urine. Diagnosis usually involves imaging and urinalysis, with treatments varying from increased fluid intake to surgical removal. Moving on, glomerulonephritis is an inflammation of the glomeruli, often due to immune responses, leading to conditions like hematuria and proteinuria, and potentially progressing to kidney damage if left untreated. When kidneys can no longer effectively remove waste, it's termed renal failure. This can be acute, a sudden and often reversible decline, typically caused by severe dehydration or blood loss. Or it can be chronic, a gradual and irreversible loss of function over years, commonly due to diabetes or hypertension, leading eventually to end-stage renal disease. A serious consequence of renal failure is uremia, where excessive urea and other nitrogenous wastes accumulate in the blood, causing symptoms like fatigue, nausea, and confusion, signaling the urgent need for medical intervention. When kidneys fail, dialysis becomes a lifesaver. It's an artificial process that mimics kidney function, removing waste and excess fluid from the blood. Hemodialysis involves connecting the patient to an artificial kidney machine, called a dialyzer, where blood is filtered across a semi-permeable membrane and then returned to the body. This is usually done several times a week. Alternatively, peritoneal dialysis uses the patient's own peritoneal lining in the abdomen as the filter, with dialysate fluid being introduced and drained. This method offers the flexibility of being performed at home. Now, let's tackle 5 medium-level questions. First, differentiate between acute kidney injury and chronic kidney disease based on their onset and reversibility. Second, what is the primary function of a dialyzer in hemodialysis? Third, name two common compositions of kidney stones. Fourth, explain how glomerulonephritis affects kidney function. And finally, what is uremia and why is it a serious condition? Pause and ponder your responses. Ready for a deeper dive? The hard level will challenge your analytical skills with more complex concepts and clinical scenarios. The formation of renal calculi is a complex process involving supersaturation of urine, crystal nucleation, growth, and aggregation. Beyond the common calcium stones, we have struvite stones, often linked to UTIs caused by urea-splitting bacteria, and uric acid stones, associated with conditions like gout. Cystine stones are rarer, stemming from a genetic disorder. Understanding these different types is crucial for targeted prevention and treatment strategies, which range from hydration and dietary modifications to specific medications like thiazide diuretics or allopurinol. Diagnosis often relies on advanced imaging like CT scans and analysis of the stone composition itself. Glomerulonephritis encompasses a range of kidney diseases characterized by glomerular inflammation, often driven by immune mechanisms where antibodies attack kidney filters. This leads to two main clinical syndromes. Nephritic syndrome, marked by blood in urine, hypertension, and moderate protein loss, as seen in conditions like IgA nephropathy. In contrast, nephrotic syndrome presents with massive protein loss, severe swelling, and high cholesterol, typically observed in minimal change disease or focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. A kidney biopsy is often essential for definitive diagnosis, guiding the use of immunosuppressants and blood pressure control. Acute kidney injury, or AKI, is a sudden and rapid decline in kidney function, categorized by its causes: prerenal, due to reduced blood flow, intrarenal, direct kidney damage, or postrenal, due to obstruction. It's often reversible if treated promptly. In contrast, chronic kidney disease, or CKD, is a gradual, irreversible loss of function, primarily caused by diabetes and hypertension, progressing through 5 stages to end-stage renal disease. Differentiating AKI from CKD involves looking at the onset, duration, kidney size, and presence of long-term complications like anemia. Management focuses on addressing the underlying cause, managing complications, and ultimately, renal replacement therapy for ESRD. Time for 7 challenging questions. First, if a patient has a radiolucent stone with flank pain and hematuria, what type of stone is likely, and what dietary advice would you give? Second, differentiate between nephritic and nephrotic syndromes. Third, explain the 3 main categories of AKI causes with examples. Fourth, describe the role of urea-splitting bacteria in struvite stones. Fifth, why is a kidney biopsy crucial for glomerulonephritis diagnosis? Sixth, a diabetic patient with progressive fatigue and swelling over years, what kidney disorder is it, and when is replacement therapy needed? And finally, how do ACE inhibitors help manage CKD? Good luck! All right, trailblazers. Prepare for the ultimate challenge. The hardest level will push your boundaries, exploring the cutting edge of nephrology, engineering, and competitive insights. The progression of kidney diseases, from acute injury to chronic failure, involves intricate molecular mechanisms. In AKI, ischemia-reperfusion injury, inflammation, and oxidative stress damage renal tubular cells, leading to a sudden functional decline. For CKD, it's a relentless cycle of compensatory hyperfiltration in remaining nephrons, which paradoxically leads to their eventual scarring, known as glomerulosclerosis. Tubulointerstitial fibrosis, driven by chronic inflammation and fibroblast activation, is a critical determinant of CKD progression. Emerging research is also highlighting the significant role of epigenetic modifications and the chronic activation of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system in driving this irreversible damage, alongside the accumulation of diverse uremic toxins beyond just urea. Beyond general classifications, specific glomerular diseases present unique challenges. Minimal change disease, common in children, causes nephrotic syndrome due to podocyte foot process effacement. Focal segmental glomulosclerosis, often progressive, involves segmental scarring. Membranous nephropathy, an adult nephrotic syndrome, is linked to subepithelial immune complexes. IgA nephropathy, the most common primary GN, causes recurrent hematuria. Genetic disorders like Alport syndrome, affecting type 4 collagen, lead to progressive kidney disease, hearing loss, and eye issues. Polycystic kidney disease, both dominant and recessive forms, involves cyst growth leading to kidney failure, often caused by mutations in *PKD1* or *PKD2* genes, highlighting the crucial role of genetics in renal pathology. Renal replacement therapies are marvels of medical engineering. Hemodialysis uses an extracorporeal circuit, where a blood pump circulates blood through a dialyzer. This artificial kidney contains thousands of hollow, semi-permeable fibers, across which waste products diffuse into a precisely formulated dialysate flowing countercurrently. Ultrafiltration, driven by pressure gradients, removes excess fluid. Anticoagulants prevent clotting in this circuit. Peritoneal dialysis, in contrast, utilizes the patient's own peritoneal membrane as the filter. Dialysate is instilled into the abdominal cavity, allowing wastes to diffuse and fluid to osmotically move into the fluid, which is then drained. While PD offers home flexibility, peritonitis is a significant complication. Kidney transplantation, however, remains the gold standard, involving surgical placement of a donor kidney and lifelong immunosuppression to prevent rejection, offering superior quality of life and survival. Immunosuppression after kidney transplantation is critical but comes with its own set of challenges. The body's immune system naturally attacks the foreign organ, necessitating a careful balance of drugs like calcineurin inhibitors and corticosteroids to prevent rejection, without causing severe side effects like infections or new cancers. Future directions in nephrology are incredibly exciting. Regenerative medicine aims to repair damaged kidneys using stem cells or even grow mini kidneys called organoids for research and potential therapeutic use. The development of wearable or implantable artificial kidneys seeks to provide continuous, more physiological filtration, moving beyond current dialysis limitations. Moreover, genomic medicine and precision nephrology are paving the way for highly individualized treatments, leveraging genetic insights and multiomics data for better patient outcomes and a future where kidney disease might be prevented or even cured. Let's tackle the first 5 hardest questions. First, explain compensatory hyperfiltration in CKD progression and its long-term consequences. Second, a patient with nephrotic syndrome shows podocyte effacement on biopsy. What's the diagnosis and treatment response? Third, describe hemodialysis engineering principles, focusing on the dialyzer and dialysate. Fourth, differentiate ADPT and ARPT by genetic mutations and age of onset. Fifth, discuss challenges of long-term immunosuppression post-transplant, including complications. Take your time to formulate comprehensive answers. Moving on to the next 5 hardest questions. Sixth, name to non-urea uremic toxins and their systemic contributions. Seventh, how does RAS contribute to CKD and how are its inhibitors used? Eighth, a patient has recurrent hematuria post-URI with IgA deposits on biopsy. What's the diagnosis and its prevalence? Ninth, elaborate on regenerative medicine's potential role, specifically stem cell therapy and organoids, in kidney diseases. And finally, compare hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis mechanisms, highlighting a major advantage and complication for each. These questions require detailed, integrated knowledge. And that brings us to the end of our in-depth exploration of excretory disorders. We've covered everything from basic concepts to advanced competitive insights, preparing you thoroughly for any ET. Remember, consistent learning and practice are key. For more such comprehensive educational content, visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for regular updates and more engaging lessons. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep aiming for success. See you in the next session.